everyone, my name's Annette and welcome back to Cotto Verde. Today I am going to be planting up some plug plants that have arrived in the post from a company that I use called South Eastern Horticultural. Their plants come in plastic packaging which we recycle, but they are very economical and their plants have so far always been really good quality. So let me show you what I've got. These plants are specifically for me to grow on so that I've got something to plant in the pots at the front of the house outside the front door where we have a very shaded area. So one of the things that I chose was a mixed pack of Hebes, and Hebes are evergreen and they stay quite small but they normally create nice mounds. And I thought with a mixed pack that I would get a variety of different greens and different leaf shapes. And let me see what I got. And I did. So you can see that there are 12 plug plants here, and each one at the moment is just like one little stem. Can you see that? Yeah. So some of them, you know, have got smaller leaves than others. This one here has got larger leaves. This one here has got sort of longer leaves. I'm trying to get it to focus on the plant and not my face. This one is darker. And there's a lovely variegated one here. So as I pot these up, and then what I'm going to do is just snip off the top, because by pinching out the top it will start branching. I can actually see with these little ones here that they've got, will it focus? They've got tiny little branches on them already, but in order to get these plants to bush out, I think I'm going to have to pinch the top off. So I'll show you how I do that. Normally what I'd do is soak everything when it arrives, but actually these are very moist still. They've come, I guess, really quickly, and so they're lovely and moist. So I don't need to soak them, but I will water them in once I've planted them. So these are dwarf foxgloves, and I've got a mix of colours here. Okay, so these are pretty good looking foxgloves, really nice root balls, and lots of leaves. So the extra mix are taller, and I'm going to put those in the little beds that we've got around the roses at the front, because those beds are predominantly in the shade most of the day, and I really want some colour there, and I want some tall spires of colour. So again, these have got fantastic root balls. Try and get it to focus. Fantastic root balls. I mean, this one needs some soil, poor thing. Look at that. Is it focusing on the root ball? So the sooner I get these into little pots, the better. I'm going to put them all into 9cm pots. I mean, you probably could plant these straight out, but I feel that they've probably been grown in a greenhouse, and also they've been in the box for a few days as they travelled, I guess. So I'm going to harden them off basically by putting them into 9cm pots, letting the roots grow a bit, find their feet, and I will keep them in a cold frame, and then I'll gradually bring them outside and leave them outside, and then I'll be able to plant them up pretty soon. So the other thing I've got here is a Colorado mix of Achillea, which is Yarrow. They're all looking super healthy. So I'll plant those up, and these need sunshine, so these are not going in the pots outside the front door where it's very shaded. I will be putting these in my bed. So I particularly chose these colours so that I had something I could pick, but I am actually going to be sowing some Achillea this week, and I'm going to try and grow it myself. I think I've grown Achillea in the past, but those plants are really old, so it must have been quite a few years ago now. The other thing that came in this package that you might be interested in are some Freesias. So I've never grown Freesias before, but they smell absolutely divine, and I really like to have them indoors for cutting. So I'm going to be planting these Freesias into pots, and I'm going to do succession planting. So I've got 2 packs of, how many bulbs? I've got 2 packs of 20 bulbs of each colour. So I chose the blue ones, I chose white ones, and I chose yellow ones. And apparently the white and the yellow ones are the most fragrant. So I've got 2 packs of each colour, and I'm going to succession sow those in pots so that I have a consistent harvest of Freesias, which I absolutely adore. It says they flower from June to August, 10 inches high, 25 centimetres. Planting time March to April, so next month I'll be planting those. I'm going to keep them in the garage until then, keep them nice and cold. Let's go and pot up these plug plants. So there are very few things that you need if you want to pot up your plug plants. I'm putting gloves on because it's freezing out here today. So really all you need is compost and something to put it in. I use these 9 centimetre pots. I just reuse them every year, and I've filled some up already. The compost I use is the Melcourt RHS approved peat-free compost. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. This is slightly wet. I haven't dampened it down, but the rain gets through the bags and that makes it a bit wet. You literally just take your little plug plant and see how deep the root is. You kind of want to get it, I mean, I sort of put it a little bit deeper than that. So make sure that when you put the soil in, I'm just kind of holding the leaves so they don't get covered in soil, compost. And then I just sort of lightly press it down. I'm not trying to squish the soil because that would damage its sort of structure, but you just want to sort of fill them up like that. I will then water these in very lightly, but if this compost was dry, I'd water them in thoroughly. I just sprinkle them with a hose or a watering can. So I should say that it's very important that you don't leave your plug plants proud like that. Can you see how the root ball is sticking up? You want to make sure all the roots are inside, deep down. So always plant them, better to plant them deeper than have them sitting proud. Don't know if you're catching sight of little Blue over there in the corner, but it's his first day outside today. So we're celebrating and he's probably going to stay very close. And then, as I said before, all of these are going to go in the cold frames, and I'll keep the lid closed for a night or two, open it up in the daytime, as long as it's not too cold, and just get them accustomed to the outdoors before I'm able to plant them out. And hopefully by the time I plant them out, the root ball will have filled these pots considerably. So these are the little Achillea. Again, fantastic root balls. Now don't forget, Achillea are not shade loving. They like sunshine, they want free draining soil. I mean, I could mix some grit in with this, but I think they'll be fine in compost, and I'll make sure I plant them out somewhere where the soil is definitely free draining. You see, I'm just tearing the bottom where it's all wound round itself, just to encourage it to grow outwards. Just planted the first Hebe, or potted up the first Hebe, and what I'm going to do is just nip the top out so that it starts branching and makes a bushier plant. And I think I'm going to leave I think I'll leave 4 sets of leaves and see what happens. So this is a cold frame. We've got a weed suppressing membrane at the bottom and then just a bit of gravel. And I put these little baskets in during the winter because the sun is so low that I want to bring everything up so that it gets a bit more light. And then now that these have been watered, I'm just going to put them in here. I'll keep these closed overnight, and then during the day I'll either raise them up using the little wooden stick, but that's quite a big gap, so if they were more tender I would just put a brick in between here and sort of balance it and keep it a little bit more closed. But these have been inside for a few days now. They probably spent their whole beginning of their life inside, so I'm closing these for tonight. Keep them all snug and warm. I forgot to say the reason that I bought plug plants, Foxglove plug plants, is because I have sown some. I did some autumn sowing of foxgloves, but they're absolutely tiny, and I really wanted to be able to put something into the pots at the front of the house that would bring instant height and instant colour. So I needed to have something that was a bit more advanced. I don't know why my foxgloves are so tiny, but they really didn't take off. In fact, I can show you. Foxglove Alba on the right, first 2 rows, second 2 rows is Sutton's Apricot, and third one is Pam's Choice, and then the Dianthus on the end. Really, I mean, fairly good germination, but terrible growth. There we go. These were sown on the 28th of August. I've written down how long it should take to germinate, 14 to 21 days, and they did, but then they didn't do anything. I mean, I've never had anything like this. I'm normally so much more successful. Anyway, that's why I've bought some foxgloves this year. I really hope that it was interesting and useful to see how plug plants arrive and how easy it is to just put them on and put them somewhere sheltered until they grow. If you don't have a cold frame, you can just keep them indoors and then put them out during the day. And I know it's a hassle, but it's fairly easy to do. And then eventually, when you've been doing that for about a week or two, you'll be able to leave them outside, maybe in like a sheltered spot in your garden. But it's all doable. My cold frames are invaluable though, so I highly recommend getting a cold frame. Anyway, let me know in the comments if there's anything that you'd particularly like to see, and I'll try and cover that in a future video. Do subscribe to my channel because, sorry, Baloo's having so much fun with Max. It's the first time he's out. It's so sweet, they're racing around like crazy. As I was saying, do subscribe to my channel and follow along with my adventure in my garden. I've got great plans this year, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. But let's go and pot up these plug plants. Let's go and pot up these plug plants. It's just stapled down, so it's a little bit fiddly, and I'm reluctant to take my gloves off in this freezing weather. This is when I wish I had a greenhouse. Must be so nice to pot your plugs up in a greenhouse.